A new UN report is sending shockwaves around the world. It reveals a horrifying truth. Palestinian detainees are being tortured in Israeli prisons. The report released recently is based on interviews with former prisoners. Their stories are deeply disturbing. They describe a system where abuse is common. The report focuses on events after October 7th. On that day, tensions in the region escalated dramatically. Since then, over 9,400 Palestinians have been detained by Israel. This includes children and journalists. The UN report says many of these detainees have faced torture and ill treatment. The report is a wake-up call. It shows the human cost of the conflict. These are not just statistics, these are real people suffering in prison. The world is watching. The UN is demanding an immediate investigation. The report details horrific acts. It alleges Israel is violating international law. The international community must act now. This is a matter of human rights. The UN report doesn't hold back. It names the torture methods allegedly used by Israeli authorities. These techniques are designed to break prisoners. They inflict pain, fear, and lasting trauma. Waterboarding is one horrifying example. This torture simulates drowning. Victims are strapped down, their faces covered with cloth. Water is poured over them, making them feel like they can't breathe. It's a terrifying experience that leaves deep psychological scars. The report also exposes the use of electric shocks. These shocks are often applied to sensitive areas of the body, causing excruciating pain. And then there's sleep deprivation. Prisoners are kept awake for days, leading to disorientation and hallucinations. These methods are barbaric. They have no place in the 21st century. The UN report calls them what they are: torture. These practices violate the Geneva Conventions, international agreements that prohibit such cruelty. The UN report has sparked outrage around the globe. Human rights groups are condemning Israel's actions. World leaders are demanding answers. The consensus is clear. This is unacceptable. UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk called the report's findings deeply troubling. He stressed that torture is never justified. Turk urged Israel to launch an immediate and independent investigation. The report could have serious legal consequences for Israel. The International Criminal Court, or ICC, is already looking into alleged war crimes in the region. This report gives them even more to investigate. The ICC has the power to prosecute individuals for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and even genocide. The pressure is on Israel to cooperate. The world is watching, waiting to see if justice will be served. Section 4, Israel denies, points fingers. Israel is pushing back against the UN report. They are denying the allegations. The Israeli military says it does not tolerate abuse of detainees. They claim to have strict rules against mistreatment. However, Israel's response has been met with skepticism. Critics point out that Israel has a long history of human rights abuses against Palestinians. They say this report is just the latest example. Interestingly, the UN report doesn't let the Palestinian Authority off the hook. It criticizes them for human rights abuses in the West Bank. This shows that the problem of prisoner abuse exists on both sides of the conflict. The report calls on both Israel and the Palestinian Authority to do better. They must respect international law. They must protect the rights of all detainees. Section 5. Justice for all, a global demand. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres is deeply concerned. He's calling for justice and accountability. Guterres wants Israel to conduct a full and impartial investigation. He says those responsible for the abuses must be held accountable. Human rights groups around the world are echoing Guterres' call. They're demanding an end to the culture of impunity. They say that those who commit torture must face consequences for their actions. This is not just about punishing the guilty, it's about sending a message. Torture is never okay. It's a crime against humanity. The international community must stand together to condemn it. Section 6. Finding Peace. the only way forward. The UN report is a stark reminder of the human cost of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This is a conflict that has gone on for far too long. It has caused immense suffering on both sides. The only way to stop the cycle of violence is to find a peaceful solution. This requires dialogue, compromise, and a commitment to human rights. The international community has a role to play. We must support efforts to achieve a just and lasting peace. We must hold all parties accountable for their actions. The UN report is a call to action. We cannot ignore the suffering of Palestinian detainees. We must demand justice, accountability, and an end to the conflict.